Mikel Arteta signs a new deal, and with his whole midfield missing and trips to Tottenham and Manchester City, it's just in time for everybody to want him out. This is the ArsenalVision Post-Match Podcast. My name's Elliot Smith. You can block me on Twitter, Gunner. I kid. We kid because we love. We joke because we love, and we love you, and we love the club, and we love Mikel sticking around. I mean, I don't think, whatever your opinion of him, whether it ranges from unquestioned, unlimited, unrestricted love and admiration, or maybe a little bit more moderate, maybe a little more considered, I think we can all agree he is up there as one of the best managers in the game, and one that's still improving, I think it's fair to say. So I think locking him down makes sense, and if nothing else, it takes that story off the table for the season, which is good, because it's just been a really quiet and calm period around the club, and there's not much going on. Just an international break of little emotion and little news. I'm kidding. It's over. It was so over, it never even began. It's not back on, it's back off. It's over, and it was never on. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Declan Rice suspended. I'm talking about Mikel Merino injured. I'm talking about Ricardo Calafiori injured. I'm talking about Martin Odegaard injured. Are you injured, listener? You should check. You might be injured. That's how well things are going right now. I will tell you, if you need a break from all that, Matt, Giant Gooner, a finance expert, and guy who likes to spill the tea on the finance world, did spill lots of tea all over Chelsea on a patron pod we did about the mess that is Chelsea Football Club and what's happening between Clear Lake and Bowley and the parties there. And it was fun to listen to, take your mind off things for a bit. That's there if you need it. Tomorrow, we're doing our power rankings with Clive, where we are going to rank all the big clubs where they are currently, just before there's time for them all to play and make it look ridiculous. But there's time to laugh at Chelsea and time to laugh at United and time to laugh at Tottenham. So that's coming tomorrow, and it will inevitably include, at the beginning, updates from Mikel's presser tomorrow. So you won't want to miss that unless you miss it, in which case you've missed it. So it's probably not a big deal, honestly. All right. I think we should kick off this podcast. We are going to talk briefly about Mikel's new contract. We will not talk about Manchester City's 115 charge or 130 charge or 190 charge, whatever it's up to now, hearing beginning next week. Because, all right, fine. It's beginning potentially on Monday. Great. We'll have news about that in 2049 when there's a ruling. Until then, I can tell you that Paul is here. You can find him on Twitter at PausMyPants. Pause.
Woohoo!
And Clive, you can find him on Twitter at ClivePFC. Hello, Clive.
Hello.
Okay, good. Off to a flyer. And I think we can start with the Mikel news so we can get that out of the way and panic about all the stuff there is to panic about. Clive messaged me privately before this pod and said, if you're not worried yet, wait till you hear what I have to say. I am going to have you in a complete panic. So I, for one, look forward to it. Okay. Paul, Mikel signed. Thoughts?
Inevitable, which is wonderful. He ain't going anywhere till this has hit its zenith as a project. He still needs to get a Premier League win behind him, a Champions League win. Then he needs the period after that where he's like, what do I do next? What's it all about?
His blue period.
So we got a few years left in Mikel. He's just going to keep building and building. He didn't every now and then there'll be Real Madrid. Well, it won't be that one. Okay, Barcelona Barcelona is such a cluster that we're not going to have that fear. He wouldn't do that. Where would he go? He can't go to any of our major rivals, and there's just no scenario in which you should start getting worried about Mikel Arteta, no matter how good he gets, because he's going to want to see this. He'll never have a better gig. He'll never have a better. It's set up for him. He set it up. He's got the full support. It would need something a seismic to change, the Kroenke's cell or some weird thing for it.
Yeah. He's where he belongs. I mean, he's at a club he played for and captained. He's at a club where he feels happy and connected to the fan base. He's at a club he seems to understand, where all the power structures have aligned behind him in a supportive way. I'm going to say something, Clive, that you will be unsurprised is kind of crazy and out there. I have a different take on manager contracts. I don't think they matter at all. And they don't change anything. The only thing I think you should always make sure you do is not have a manager manage a team in the final year of his deal. I think in every situation where a manager manages a team in the final year of his deal, it makes it a talking point and it's a story. And the more the season goes on, the more the story becomes about the manager. Will he, won't he, will he, won't he? And here's why I don't think it matters. If a manager is bad, he gets sacked. If a manager is good, he stays. If another club wants the manager and the manager wants to go to the other club, he goes. Can you think of a time a manager was terrible and didn't get sacked other than Erik ten Hag? No. Right? So the point is, you can give Mikel a 30-year contract. If 7 seasons from now he's not succeeding, he's going to get sacked. You can give Mikel a 30-year contract, and if Barca wants him and he wants Barca, he'll go to Barca. There'll be compensation, but he'll go. So the only thing you really don't want to do with a manager, if you really like them and feel like they're the right guy, is you don't want them spending the season in the last year of their deal. That's the thing you don't want. And we've avoided it. So to me, Clive, the most important thing with the manager is don't let them have a season where their contract is a talking point and a distraction, and this ends that. So tell me why I'm wrong.
You're not wrong.
Okay,
But in addition, what I would say is by him signing, he creates a level of stability in the environment. And as always, we're always thinking about the next thing that we do. And the next thing that we do when we go to talk to the player 1 year in advance to us signing him is saying to him, look, we've got our manager here for the next 3 years minimum. And by the way, we got Sleeper here, same length of time. Saka here, same length of time. Martinelli as well. And the list goes on. So you're going into an environment where you know people are going to be around for a couple of years minimum. And that helps us, right? That helps us build and grow and layer on, because every one of us wants us to get better. How do you do that unless you have a level of confidence in the project you're about to join, etc.? So that everything else on the sporting side of things, there, mate. If he loses 10 games in a row and the players are not talking to him and he says run left, they're running right, then I'm sorry, it's over. That's a breakdown in the relationship. That's a breakdown in your ability to control your environment. So that happens to anybody, Mikel Arteta or anybody else. And it's the first thing I look for is a relationship between players and manager and executives. Are they talking the same language? If they are, then I look away, because that means all the signs are we're going to continue on this road. So yeah, I like it, Elliot. I like it more than I realised, actually. You never, football's a funny game, right? You're never sure what's going on in the background. The club seemed really happy. Not saying he wasn't going to sign, but seemed happy to know their next steps. I think not just from a sporting side of things, but also commercial as well. Yeah, commercially, we're all going the right way. So I like it a lot. I really do.
Do you wish it was a longer contract?
I wish Saliba had the next couple of years and Saka. But what you do when you're an elite person like this, you keep each other honest. Yeah, you keep each other honest, and that's what should happen. You don't want to sign for 25 years. It just makes sense, right? So you keep each other honest.
Well, wait a minute. Chelsea seem to think it makes tons of sense to sign people for eternity.
Well, that's another podcast which we happen to have on the platform, right? So yeah, I think it just I'd like to see an extra 1 year. I also, the most important thing is we have the relationships. That's the key thing, right? So I think it's all positive.
Yeah, I think what a manager contract does more than anything is it's a signal to the market, it's a signal to the players, it's a signal to the fan base, more than it is anything in terms of the manager staying or going. Because as I've said, if a manager wants to go, he'll go. If a club wants a manager to go, he'll go. If a club wants a manager to stay and the manager wants to stay, he'll stay. I cannot think of a situation where a contract kept a club from sacking a manager or a manager from going on to a bigger job if he wanted it. What I think it does do, to your point, Clive, is it creates that stability. It takes the talking point off the table. And one thing I should have added to my initial idiotic salvo is that it also is important in the transfer market. I do think that if players come to a club, they come to a club for money, but in part that they feel they want to work for that manager. And if that manager's situation is not clear, then it makes it harder to recruit. So this makes recruitment easy. And I'll say this, any metric by which you want to measure Mikel, I think he's an unqualified success, apart from, the league and the Champions League. But we're into the stage now where we can start to expect to ask the club to try to accomplish that. But recruitment's been good. The players seem to like him. The tactics are good. The underlying metrics are good. We've broken a goal scoring record. We've broken a goal difference record. We've broken a wins record. So there's a lot to be really happy about. I accept that there are people that would say, well, we have to kick on. All right, well, we're going to try to do that. I also think this is going to be a really interesting period in Mikel's management, because over the last couple of seasons, last season in particular, I think he had a pretty straightforward run in terms of injuries. The season before, we had one injury that really knocked us off course. That was the Saliba injury. I should mention it came in coordination with the Tomiyasu injury, which meant we were playing Rob Holding. And I think that should be a reminder to everybody that no matter how good your management is, talent tends to win out. We couldn't recover from the drop from Saliba to Holding, and it cost us potentially a title. So we're going into an interesting period now where Mikel is going to have to solution things, as Clive would say. He's going to have to problem solve. And he's got the talent to do it, but it may mean materially changing the plan or not. I think it's really interesting. So look, Tim and I did a pod on Patreon about Odegaard picking up an injury on international duty and just that push and pull and tension there. We're not going to cover that here, but what we can do, Clive, I'll stay with you just for a minute here. The Odegaard injury means we'll be without our three presumptively first choice midfielders, Merino, Rice, and Odegaard for the derby. And it's probably going to be a lot longer for Odegaard. I would guess we'll know more tomorrow, but I would guess back after the next international break. So there's going to be a reconfiguration. I said, so I do want to be clear, the injury is entirely Paul's fault. Let's make no mistake about it. Paul was very clear that Odegaard never gets injured. He said it multiple times on the pod. So it is his fault. Now, we did answer a question on the mailbag pod last week about Odegaard, and I said I thought he was a single point of failure, Clive. I look at this squad, and it has so many good profiles and so many good players. But weirdly, it really doesn't have a creative midfield. I mean, Odegaard's more Ramsey than he is Ozil. We don't really rely on playmaker magicians in midfield in the way the Arsene Wenger teams of the past did. But I don't see a lot of Odegaard profiles in teams. So this injury in particular feels like a really interesting challenge for Mikel to address. And I'm curious what your initial reaction to it is and how he might handle it.
Yeah, the way I look at it is, it is a lot to deal with in this game. Let's be honest, right? To lose three players like that for the Tottenham game is a lot. But we get one back straight away, so it's only for one game. So my feeling is, injury is sometimes can provide an opportunity, and we can all close our eyes and see exactly how we're going to play in midfield, which also means the opposition can close their eyes and see how we're going to play. And I think we've had a good look at this, the way we play now. And whatever we want to achieve will need to be achieved by adding more layers to our team. And sometimes an injury forces you into that. I'm not trying to make it a good news story because it's not. You know, I felt he shouldn't have played in these games. I spent the Brighton game watching him limp around, and I felt it cost us. And when you told me it was a 19-pass game in it shocked me, but it didn't. You know, and that tells me we made a mistake, in my opinion, on that day, not replacing him and going for them properly. You know, so learning to play without him is something we need to do because we've all grown accustomed to it. He always plays nearly, and we need to do something around it. And I think it'll be interesting to see what we find and how we approach it and where our mentality is. Because once we get through the shock and the emotion of it all, it's interesting to see where people go. Do they go defensive to say, no, let's try to mimic what we do, get as much close as we can, keep our same system, keep our same people up the pitch? Or do we go into a double pivot, then use our fullback to progress? We got a million options, you know, and I'm going through them this morning and got so many options. But the most important thing, if we are serious about winning these trophies, we can't let a couple of injuries turn us into some sort of championship team. Do you know what I mean? We're a big team with big data, big results, been everywhere apart from Man City and Liverpool and won. Well, let's not mess about. We're a big team, and big teams don't cry themselves to sleep when they lose a couple of players. Big teams just adjust, and other players been knocking the manager's door trying to tell them how many positions they can play because they want to play. So now's the time to go out there and say, yeah, we've lost our skipper, and he's carried us in many games. Let's carry him for 3-4 weeks. Let's make sure this whole thing doesn't fall apart. I'd be doubly determined if I was in that dressing room to make sure that single point of failure, Elliot, I hate that. You know me, straight away I'm thinking about how to change it. I think Saka is a single point of failure for us. I'm so pleased Sterling's come along because that reduces that risk. Odegaard, we're about to find out because I think your point is valid. But let's see how we deal with it. There's obvious solutions, but it's so interesting to see which one the manager falls on.
Yeah, this is where I'm torn, right? As a fan, I want to puff my chest out and say, we go again. We're the better team. we're still going to compete for everything. We're going to beat Tottenham at their place. We're better than them without these players. We're going to be fine. I think as a fan, you have to puff your chest out and do that because it's the best way to handle it. Although I fully accept anybody that went to some dark places as this news is breaking. It's hard. It's upsetting, right? Because we have big aspirations this season. From an analytical standpoint, I do think we tend to just not appreciate how much talent matters and how much a loss of talent impacts you. Declan Rice and Martin Odegaard are Ballon d'Or finalists, and they're both out for this game, as is Mikel Merino, as is Calafiori, we believe. So it's not ideal, Paul. And I think, you know what I look at? I look at Liverpool. Liverpool had a 99-point season. 99. And they won the title. And the next season, Virgil van Dijk got injured, and they had 69 points. 30 points fewer because they just couldn't sustain it. A few seasons ago, actually, we don't even have to go back that far. The season they ran it close, what was that? That would have been 2021, 22, when they hit 92 points and experienced this a worse pain than we did last season, right? Losing the title to City, who got to 93. So they were on 92 points. The next season, fifth with 67. So the idea that progress is linear has been disproven by them. Now, I'm not saying we're going to be like them. I think one thing Klopp did is he ran teams into the ground with his style and his approach, and they often suffered in the subsequent season as a result of it. But I think it is a warning that when you do have these issues of injuries and challenges like this, it can be very hard to manage. Now, I'm not saying that to bring anybody down, just to sort of counterbalance the idea that losing talent's no big deal. We go again. So where are you on the spectrum of how we handle this? We'll start. I don't want to do the what should the lineup be for the derby yet, because I want to do that next. But just your instinct on the challenge of the Odegaard injury, his role in the squad, and how we try to manage this period.
It's a challenge. We don't have any like for him. If there is one in the squad, it's Nwaneri, and I wouldn't be doing that to poor old Nwaneri. We don't make our problems his problems before he's ready to take on that burden. He could still play an important role in this game, but I wouldn't be starting him. It's not his problem. You got a lot of grown-ups, experienced players. There are different ways of playing. Maybe something we haven't seen that much of from Mikel, though he's talked about it a lot, is kind of different ways of playing, improvisation, adjustments, surprises to the other manager. He's got a lot more options these days, even as we look at this and talk ourselves into, oh my God, he doesn't have a replacement for this guy and a replacement for that guy, Saka, Odegaard. Well, as Clive talked, we maybe have some options that we can do some things around the Saka thing. If it's a game or two, you're always going to miss Saka if it's 5, 6, 7 games, 4, 1, 2, 3. There should be a different way of playing that gets you there. Odegaard, the same. Look, we've got to be able to rest players, rotate players. And so I think there are ways, and we'll talk about lineups, but I'm not saying this is my lineup for the Tottenham game, but in the preseason, we saw a lineup that involved, on the left-hand side, Trossard, Jesus as striker, Kai Havertz as left 8. And for the first time in maybe 6, 8, 9 months, we saw our left side being the side where all the action was, different ways of playing. We had Vieira on the right. We had Odegaard, but he was following the boys over to the left-hand side where all the fun was. We had Zinchenko and I think Jorginho in midfield. Now, okay, it's preseason. It was Bayer Leverkusen and maybe not Bayer Leverkusen at their best. But we had a choice on the day about how we played, and we played in a very different way. And we've got to be able to play in with a couple of kind of units or different ways, players who play well together. And that's just how it is. You can create with other players. And yes, we'll lose a bit from Martin Odegaard, but that opens a spot on the pitch for somebody else to do other interesting things, be it Kai Havertz at the 10 on the right hand. There are different ways of playing. Okay, we probably need Kai on the left-hand side as the left 8, but there are different ways of playing, and surprises the customer customers. That's my next call to opponents. And the one thing that if there's one good thing about our midfield is that Spurs are going to be totally flummoxed and surprised by who we put out in our midfield. They have no clue who we're going to play.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, I think that is a really important point. That the upside of all of this change is there will be no preparing for what we do, because I don't think anyone knows what we're going to do. Mikel might still not be totally sure what we're going to do as we sit here recording. I do think, look, you're right. There's no like for like change. Like, for example, Raheem Sterling can do everything Bukayo Saka does. He can operate in all the same zones and do all the same things. He can't do them as well because he's not as good as Bukayo Saka. But you can keep the plan the same because the player can, dribble a bit and hold the width, but also play in the channel, and he can go to the byline and cut inside. He can use his left. He can facilitate for others. He can score a few goals. Now, again, he can't do it as well, but he can do it. I just don't see there being a player who can do the things Odegaard does in the zones he does them, which means the plan has to change, not just the personnel. And that's where I do want to start to shift the focus a little bit, Clive, not to the theoretical, but to the actual, the problem we have to solve on Sunday. Because going to the Etihad, we'll have Rice back, for example, and that will be a slightly different calculus. And, we may have other players back. This gets more complicated by not knowing if Jesus is back, because I think you could go 4-2-4 and have Jesus and Kai up front. I think there's a lot of things you could do if he's back. He may not be. Is it Trossard? So how have you started to think about the way we can set up for the derby while still looking like Arsenal, playing like Arsenal, and compensating for the loss of a player that seems a little bit unique from a profile standpoint in our squad?
Yeah, that's it, Elliot. He's unique. And so once you get it out of your mind, the way he plays football is unique. The way he manipulates the ball, looks after it, quite secure on the ball, and gets us going. And when we're struggling deep, he comes deep and gets us going from there. He's a unique player that feels absolutely comfortable in his environment to go and fix problems. And he's basically the coach on the pitch. There hasn't been many games I've watched in the last year or so that one of him and Jorginho haven't played. That's been in my mind. I think the team has an emotional response to those two players in particular, and one is normally on the pitch, right? So that's got me thinking about the potential things we can do. I also thought to myself, well, I like a double pivot, for example, but what does that look like? And it's not so much always, Elliot, who we want to play. It's maybe how we want to play. And with Spurs, their possession numbers are quite similar to us. They're at home. They're going to want to have the ball. That may suit us on this day because, mate, they defend with two. And the more they have the ball, the more stupid they are. Romero puts his cape on and he goes running off to try to be the hero to the crowd. And sometimes they defend with one. And despite him being a 400-meter runner, he can't cover all the space, And this is what I would do. I would have a much more of a settled team, a settled sort of block, and I will spring from it. So I'll be looking for defensive stability, which we have, and I'll be looking for our ability to spring. Right. So, and that sometimes. So for me, do we go with Jorginho, or the other option for me is we have two other options to play in midfield that create a balance. Let's just presume that Partey is going to be the deepest on the right hand side. Now you're talking to who's going to stand to his left shoulder, right? And players that stand next to left shoulder this season have been Zinchenko and Timber. So basically, do we just use one of them one line higher up and put a left back in? But you said Calafiori's out. I haven't seen that anywhere. I had a quick search, but
not confirmed out. But
yeah.
There was an Athletic article about the Odegaard injury that had a throwaway comment that Calafiori also will be missing due to an injury picked up on. Like it was a throwaway line, so I don't want to overread into it. I kind of made a passing reference to it.
Yeah, I haven't. I just had a quick look around. Hey, look, he could be out. So yeah, I could kill my little idea I have about our ability to spring up the pitch. But I'm like I say, I'm not overly concerned. I think it is about building the right partnerships. I don't know what we're going to do. I tell you what excites me. I don't know what we're going to find out. We might find out other ways, and I do worry about over dependency on some players. I really do. That bothers me. We have to change our mentality around. When key people are out, we can't function. We got to be able to function. I mean, Man City Rodri's not put on his shin pads yet. They're functioning.
Yeah.
You know, Kevin De Bruyne missed 3 months last year. They functioned. They found a way. They put Alvarez in the 10. They found a way. And I find this
Some people will scream that it's not fair to compare us to them because the reason they have a hearing starting on Monday is because they've acquired all this talent through measures that others cannot.
Yeah, but all we can do is look at the football because we don't know about the fact that they've moved money around, etc., to whatever they're alleged to be accused of. So I can only look at the example from the playing side of things, how emotionally they manage absentees. We don't follow their Twitter feeds, for example, but it feels less traumatic than when we lose a player. You mentioned the Rob Holding thing. You're absolutely right. We made a decision there. We didn't have to do that, but we did. And then we ended up losing our stability. It affected us. We overplayed certain people. That's where we were. That's where we were back then. We didn't have the squad. We have a better squad now. I'm all for seeing what we decide to do. We could find it more exciting. And Elliot, one last thing. There was a note that came to us both yesterday about maybe these 2 games are the games where we probably have the least of the ball. And, you know, this might be an off the ball game for us. And what we do is 35% possession. And same for City as well. And we have players for this. We really do. And by the way, all our defenders are standing there when we're the best defense in the league. You know, and then they're not going backwards. So teams have got the same challenges, but we haven't got a glue player in centre mid, and we've lost our number one creator. But this, to me, is going to be a far more combative game. I'm just trying to see the positive side. We can find solutions.
Yeah, of course.
We can find solutions in this game.
We were 3 goals up at halftime at Spurs last season with 30% of the ball. They had 70% of the ball in that first half or thereabouts. They finished with 62%. And I think you're right, Clive. So my frustration is I don't think Spurs are very good, and I think we could do them. And if we had our starting midfield, I think midfield would be such a mismatch that they'd be mismatched in 3 zones, in the defensive zone, in the attacking zone, and in the midfield zone. Now I do think the midfield is going to be a bit of a patchwork job, and I do think that we are going to have even less of the ball. But I do think that with Sterling or Martinelli and Saka and Kai racing away, the real question for me in this game is very simple. Are we press resistant enough with the team we put out there to find the balls out, or do we get too pinned in, too hemmed in, where we do start to drop too deep, sink too deep, and we can't break away? The accordion can't expand. One thing I love about Martin Odegaard off the ball in our 4-4-2 block, in our defensive block, he is the one who springs when the ball goes back to a defender. He springs out. We push the team back. And what do we see? The next thing we know, the ball is going back to their keeper. And we expand. And then we can press. I do think we lose a little of that without Martin. And I do think that we could get crushed in a little too deep. So the question, Paul, is Clive, come back to that. What do you think?
No, that's the side of the game that's easier to replace. You know, say we have Gabriel Jesus that plays. We've got people that can press. It's the magic
if he plays,
stuff
I agree. That could be big. Yep.
Yeah, it's the magic stuff of his feet. The seeing around corners, the reverse passes. No one else does that in the league. Right? That's the stuff we can't replace. But the off-ball stuff we can replace. You know, so you're right, Elliot. He does trigger the press. But so does Havertz on occasion, and so does Jesus on occasion, and so does Trossard on occasions. You know, it's just a matter of what we decide.
Trossard, I think, less well. Yeah, less well. So what I would say is, if you think about our 4-4. If you think about our 4-4-2 defensive block, normally it's Kai and Odegaard as the 2. If it's Kai and Jesus at the 2, I think you can keep a lot of the off-the-ball stuff. I do think you can, actually. And I think you can spring effectively. If it's not Jesus, I start to think we lose a bit of that, candidly. So I think Jesus' fitness could be key here. What do you think about that, Paul? The 30% possession and a 3-goal lead at halftime last season, we could do that again. This may be a game where we don't actually need the midfield as much, but you got to be press resistant enough that you can spring, that you can keep them honest, that you can get them turned around running the other way. We saw ourselves do it against Brighton, by the way, when we were down to 10 men, and we should have won that game. In a way, we had a little bit of practice for this, down to 10 men, and with Martin coming off at 74 minutes against Brighton, that was kind of practice in a way for what we might be up against. So what do you think? How do we make sure that we don't get pinned in our defensive third for too long? Because what you really don't want, you don't want those 15, 20-minute stretches where you're just not getting out. That's where I think if you're on the rack too much, it can go badly,
I think there's a bit of an inevitability that there'll be some of that going on at the weekend. It's just how it is. I don't think you should set up to sit in, but we don't have the same midfield we would have wanted to put out there to have the legs to stretch the pitch, to kind of push them back. I think not having Odegaard, like, one slight blessing in it is we won't be tempted to do the aggressive pressing of their back line or their playing out from the goalkeeper. And we did that last season in the first game. And it didn't go so well for us because they're pretty good from playing it out from the back. And without the midfield we would normally field, I don't really want us going chasing around their back line, trying to get the ball off them in and around their box. That exposes a midfield that's unlikely to have the legs to press and to drop back and to have the confidence. We saw it with that goal up the middle against us,
Brighton,
where Partey was jumping to the left. Nobody was quite sure their role. That's not what you want against Spurs. They'd love you to come and press their back line, to stretch yourself out, relying on our midfield to be there, to get into their spots behind the front two or three who are pressing. So I'm hoping we'll drop back a little bit, kind of more of a mid-block, hang in there for 70 minutes, give Spurs the Spurs formula, which is stay in the game for 70 minutes, help them make fools of themselves in the last 25, 30 minutes, have your options off the bench to really hurt them kind of in the last third of the game. I'm not saying sit back, be ultra defensive, but have a team that can play football, that can hurt them on the break, that can do a good mid-block, that can contend with them, but see this as a two-part game. Stay in and around. If we're up a goal, great. If we're level, that's also fine at 65 minutes. Be set up to help Spurs in the tail end of the game. Have your options. And you got to look at the midfield and the attack in those two stages. Who do you want on to start? Who do you want on for the last 30 minutes? That's as big a topic as who the starting lineup is. You got to be able to make the changes at 65 minutes. That means you take advantage of what happens with Spurs. They can't do what they're going to look great for some period of this game. They could even look great for like 45, 50 minutes. But then they start to show you the gaps. It starts to come apart, and the opportunities are there if you haven't had them already. So I really think there should be as much emphasis on what's the second part of this, the two parts of this, what's the second part of this, what's our lineup, who needs to be there. I think there are ways of setting up a midfield. They can give them all sorts of challenges with the players we have.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I would say is I would try to keep as many of our best players and our most experienced players on the pitch. I think this is where it starts to get interesting, and try to keep them in the positions they're most comfortable. So, Clive, I'll ask you about two things quickly, and then I want to literally just start to pick lineups and talk a little bit more about the tactics here. But one suggestion would be, why not move Saka into the Odegaard role? Then you could play Sterling on the right. Saka could do the Odegaard role. I have absolutely no doubt about that, because Saka is good enough to do any of these roles, frankly. I do tend to think that when you're missing key players, keeping as many of your best players in their best position is important for continuity. Once you start to change too many things, everything falls apart. In fact, Mikel was asked why he picked certain players in the past, one of them being Rob Holding, in fact, and he said it was to try to preserve the structure of other players playing where they're used to playing. And I know that Arsene Wenger has said similar stuff in the past. Another question then would be, what about just bringing Nwaneri in for Odegaard? And he's the next man up. If you're good enough, you're old enough. So could you just address those two things quickly? Saka moving to the 8, or Nwaneri coming in sort of like for like, so to speak?
Yeah, I'd love to see Saka in the 8, or the 8-10, shall we say, in this game. But I just don't think we need to. I think he's the master in those wide open spaces. And Sterling is a 1-year memory in our minds. We haven't seen him play in the shorts yet, so I wouldn't. He could be fantastic. By the way, Sterling could play inside as well. And some of his best moments for England have been in the inside, running around, just a tall striker. So it's so many options. I do think it's about partnerships and relationships. And there was a period last year when I saw Trossard and Havertz together. It was almost like the false nine. They were dovetailing together. I thought we were devastating in those periods. And Trossard went supernova when he was playing with Havertz tucked in. That's an option. And I'm a big believer in having your brains in the interior and your pace on the exterior. And I want to make sure against Spurs that we have maximum speed in wide areas, because that's where they're stupid. They will forget that they will defend, and they will forget, and we must have the ability to spring into those areas. And I've got a big feeling for Martinelli and Saka in this game in those wide areas to be backfilled by Sterling when one of them runs out of puff, which I no doubt will happen. Right, so we can maintain the speed for the entire 90. I do think in a game in the interior of the game when it's hot, having an experienced player like Trossard at the top end of the box with Havertz at the top end of the box, one going longer than the other when it matters, you see what I mean? And just on the seesaw, just on the piston, going back and forward. One dropping when we need to, depending on the game state, one staying higher, depending on what phase of the play is, to be the first exit. I think those two are smart enough to play together, and Trossard and Havertz are really clever, and Trossard's obviously a good finisher. He won't last a game. Jesus won't last a game, so he'll come into that scenario probably late in the game. And then it comes back to the base of midfield, Elliot. And the base, for me, I think Partey will play. I think next to him, is it Jorginho, or do we do something with a Timber or Zinchenko? That's where I am. I am a 6+4 guy rather than 5+5, particularly away in this game when we are a little bit impinged. But you know what? If the manager says, nah, the closest profile of player I've got, box to box, that's fit, might be Timber, to be an up and downer in that channel, run through, collisions, tackles, recover. Might just put him there. And people are saying, I can hear him saying, but he hasn't played in midfield very often. He can't receive it back to goal. Mate, he can receive it anywhere on the pitch. Remember where the scouting was, what it said to us. If you want to replicate what we've done so far, and maybe a little bit closer to Partey, if you all agree the distances are too big at the moment, I feel, particularly away from home, we need to get a bit tighter there. And then what you do at left back, and left back for me, Elliot, Calafiori, I'd like to see him play. I really would like to see him play. I don't know. If he doesn't play, well, Zinchenko's no mug. Play him, and play him there and give him a go. And I think we have to realise that we've got good players. I know it's hard to keep your confidence when you're playing Spurs, because you're thinking, oh my God, why them? Why are we injured for them? Do you know what I mean? Why you're going to give them such a chance? But this, could you imagine it? I see the other side. I see the opportunity for other people to stand up and go above and beyond. And I hope we do.
Yeah. I mean, I still think it's very much there for us. I mean, the reality with the derby is it can go any way. I mean, it's just such an unpredictable game. And, I know it's so cliche to say form goes out the window, but like it has been a very strange fixture over the years. There's always goals. There's always chaos. The referees' decisions loom large. We certainly don't want to be talking about that at the end of the day, unless it's 4 dodgy penalties given against them, in which case we absolutely want to be talking about that. I'm going to get Paul to pick a lineup here in a moment, and we're going to talk a little bit more about tactics and what we think might happen in this game, and maybe just a bit on how we manage our way, because whatever we do in the derby, we've got to find a lineup for Atalanta away and then still be ready to play City after going Thursday, Sunday. So it is a crucible in which this team is going to be forged for the season over the next 7 or 8 days. So let me tell you first, though, it gives me great pleasure to tell you that Indeed is back. That's right, Indeed, the hiring platform where you can match, hire, search, find everything you need all in one place, one platform. You don't need to go to multiple websites. It's like if I told you, hey, you can go to 30 websites and across those 30 websites get all the information you need, or you can go to one and it does it all faster, more success, more affordable. Yeah, you would do that. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And it doesn't just help you hire faster. This is important. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. I think that is really, really great, right? I mean, you're not looking for candidates. You're looking for the highest quality candidates. That shortens your time. It also shortens the candidates' time, makes it less frustrating for them trying to find a job. Over 140 million qualifications and preferences are leveraged every day by Indeed and their matching engine. So Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Listeners to this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ArsenalVision. Just go to Indeed.com/ArsenalVision right now and support our show by saying you heard about it on this podcast. Indeed.com/ArsenalVision. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. And this podcast is sponsored by NordVPN, which is the VPN I use when I'm over in England and I want to watch the football that's not in England, because I have a subscription to watch football, but not football when I'm over there. So all I do is VPN back over here. You ever clicked on a video on social media and it says, I'm not available in your area? Why isn't it available in my area? Because it's geo-locked. Well, it's not geo-locked with Nord. It works on iPhone. It works on Android. It works on tablets. It works on computers. It's just an app. You click. You say, I want to browse from here. In fact, you could browse in a foreign country, sign up for a streaming service in that country where it costs less, and save yourself money on all your streaming services by signing up in regions where they actually charge less for the service. That's kind of neat. There's also threat protection, because if you're a football fan, you're occasionally on dodgy websites. And if you're on dodgy websites, you know you need the threat protection. So Nord has a phenomenal offer for this podcast. Grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan, plus 4 additional months on top. It's completely risk-free with NordVPN's 30-day money-back guarantee. That's nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now. Clive, is that number that?
Indeed.
Nailed it. Whew. Feels good. Feels good. The oldies are the goodies. Paul?
Yeah.
What's your lineup for the Derby?
I'm ready. So I like my lineup. I'm going to go with Ben White, Saliba, Gabriel Magalhaes.
Can I stop you for a second? Are you sure Saliba's the right pick? No, just kidding. Keep going.
Calafiori, I don't care if he's injured. He's playing. He's fine. Okay. Did you see that?
Rub some dirt on it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll give them something to think about. Calafiori from left back, no matter what we do with him. Midfield. So we have seen Jorginho and Rice paired up doing a kind of a double pivoty. Oh, is Jorginho actually more forward than Rice at this point in the game? Oh no, hang on. Rice is going forward. Jorginho, like Partey and Jorginho as your double pivot. They'll work it out. They'll stay close together. Jorginho has made his living by staying close to somebody else. So he's really good at that. There's 10 yards between the two guys. Whether Partey sees a little space to burst into, or he sits a little deeper at times, and Jorginho acts as kind of a little bit of a left aid. Like, they'll work it out. Don't worry about it, guys. So they're your screen, your pivot, your distribution from a little deeper. We're covered there. Freeing up the left and right 8 for Kai Havertz to basically be a 10 and run them ragged. He'll run from one side to the other side. He'll pop up. He'll partner with Saka. He'll go back the other side. Van de Ven will be covering, but Van de Ven will have to be crossing his centre back all over the place. So that's your 3 in midfield. Basically, that double pivot gives freedom to Kai to run wherever he wants to go. And he will take them all sorts of places and go to where the trouble and the danger is. Front 3, I don't really mind. That's the one I can't pick at this point, because it kind of depends on the emphasis of whether we're really going for it in the first 60 minutes or a little later on. Obviously, Saka on the right. That one's easy. I wouldn't do anything crazy with Saka for all the reasons we talked about. Like, playing Saka as the right 8, that's great, but he wants Saka to pass to on the wing, right? And all of those patterns, like, can you replace what Martin Odegaard does? Well, Martin Odegaard had to learn the players around him. He wasn't world class day 1 or day 7 or season 1/2. Like, it took him a while to be one of the best players in the world with the players around him. So that all needs to be learned by somebody. So leave Saka where he is. Now, start with Gabriel Jesus. Why not? And off the left wing, Trossard, because now you got your Trossard, Havertz, Gabriel Jesus thing going on. But I'm totally fine if it was, we want Sterling off the left. Sterling is not going to play 90 minutes. So you can either have him for 60 or 30 minutes. Doesn't really matter. Martinelli, similar. You got a lot, I just think there's a lot of options. Once you pull Havertz into the 10 spot, you have a lot of options. It doesn't really matter which way you want to start. It's kind of how much an emphasis Mikel wants to put on that last 30 minutes versus the first 60. That'd be my lineup.
Clive?
Yeah, Paul's sensible as always. I think the difference with Havertz.
Wait, what?
Oh no, mate.
Hang on a second, Clive. I do not want to be charged.
Hold
with
the
phone.
When he has his sensible head on, he is very sensible. Come on, the listener knows it, right? Okay. So basically, the only thing I was going to add on top of that is Havertz. I like him as a sort of a 10-9. Rather, Odegaard plays it almost like a 10-8. You know what I mean? And I think how we interact with him is really key. And Jesus and Trossard both do it equally well. So I think we're on the similar lines there, and just depend. But most important thing, Elliot, most important thing is the 3 points. An important thing to add, maybe, is that Calafiori hasn't done a 90. Timber hasn't done a 90. Jorginho hasn't done a 90. Has Jesus done 90 this season yet? Maybe just. Yeah. So Sterling's not done 90 this season. So we sort of, I'm not saying this is traumatic because we've got 5 subs, but we're having a discussion, giving our best guess what might happen and what relationships are. But we know for a fact that all these players are going to play. They're going to play some period in this game because they need to. You know, Timber's not done 90 so as well. So it's just, we just need to make sure. I think it's phases of games, but I do like the quality of them all. I've got to be honest with you, I do like the quality. Hence, we could probably come up with 5 different teams between us in 5 minutes. Really easy. That means we've got more options, doesn't it?
See, this is why I think it could wind up being a Zinchenko in midfield or a Timber in midfield plus a Zinchenko or a midfield at left back or something like that. Is this simple reason. This football match is going to last 90 minutes and then a little bit more than that. I just got news from PGMOL and the Premier League on that. So this is important to consider. Do we want to, let's say we're a goal up in the 75th minute and we've started Jorginho and Partey. Do we want Jorginho and Partey at how they're going to feel blowing out their ass after 75 minutes, trying to help us keep that 1-0, if that's what it is? I don't love that. So then what do? Do you take just one of them off and hope the other can hold up? Well, Jorginho hasn't played in months. He hasn't played at all. He's not going to make 90 minutes in this kind of cauldron, in this environment. Partey, whatever you think of his performances, I don't think you want Partey running around at this intensity for 90 minutes, trying to, keep them out if we've got a lead late. So I think you start one of them and the other finishes the game. I think you have to share the game between them. And the way you do that is you start Partey or start Jorginho, and you play a Timber next to them and a Zinchenko left. Or, if you're lucky and Calafiori's fit, then you do that. Calafiori on the left, Timber plays essentially where he's been playing anyway, but as an extra left
ever
back.
Played 2 left backs, though?
Has Mikel ever had all 3 of his first choice midfielders out? I just
think this is one of those. I hear you, right? But look, one shouldn't preclude any options, but he's never done it. And
no, he hasn't. I guess I'd put it to you this way.
The other thing I would say is he's been playing Partey 90 minutes. We mightn't love it, but he has. And he doesn't have a lot of options here. So I agree with you. It's like my version of that is, I hear you. But it's probably Partey plus Jorginho for 70 minutes. And then Jorginho's off. And I could see at that point the options you're talking about for that stage of the game, because even if we're behind, I could see like Calafiori in midfield or Timber in midfield with the other fella at left back, and that guy having a very enterprising role. So anyway, that's my version.
Exactly I agree with you. I will tell you this. There was one game where Thomas Partey did not play 90 minutes. I don't know about the others, but that was at Villa. Another difficult game, physical, cauldron environment, and he did score just before he came off, but he was being ready to come off before that. So, he came off at 77 minutes, but I think he was being readied more like 72 minutes or so. My point is ultimately, if you start with both Partey and Jorginho, one of them has to go the 90. And depending on the game state and what's happening late, I don't know that you want to be in that situation. I agree with you, Paul. It would be very weird for him to start 2 left backs. We still don't totally know what he thinks Timber is, by the way, is just an important point I would point out, or what Calafiori is. We haven't seen that yet. I think Clive's point is an important one too, which is essentially we're talking about players in this game like Calafiori, Jesus, Jorginho, who haven't played at all. So the physical level is going to be demanding. If Sterling starts, again, the physical level is going to be demanding, and I don't see these players finishing the game. We're going to have to use our subs. For me, what I would do, guys, I'd go 4-2-4. So I would pick the back four that picks itself. If Calafiori's fit, I'd have him on the left. If not, I'd have, take your pick. Let's say Timber. I think you could go Jorginho and Partey as the two. I'd play Jesus and Kai as the front two, and Saka and Martinelli on the wings. And I'd do it as a 4-2-4, and I'd make a box in midfield. So you'd have Jorginho, Partey, Kai, and Jesus almost as a box. They would actually drop deeper, and Martinelli and Saka could stay higher and wide. When we drop into our defensive shape, it's easy, right? It's a 4-4-2. And your second line of four is Martinelli, Jorginho, Partey, Saka. Your front two are Jesus and Kai, and Jesus can do a bit of that Odegaard role in out of possession. I'm not worried about our 4-4-2 block. I do want to know how we're going to spring and how we're going to control space in midfield and how we're going to bypass the press. And I think you need that box in midfield to do it so you don't lose the numerical advantage. I think you do it with a 4-2-4. That's how I do it. Clive, thoughts?
Yeah, so 4-2-4. I know what you're saying, Elliot. There's a certain phase you want us to overload their midfield when we got settled possession, right? But there are other phases of the game as well, right? So when we have first phase of building up around the back, you might want Kai to be the one furthest forward, right, and someone else come to receive it, right? So because you might want to go long, and then when we sort of like we're squeezed in and we're like need someone to build up, you might want Kai to come and show his feet, but Jesus might do the same thing. When we're off the ball, Kai may drop back slightly, or he may say, you know what, we're going to press in behind me. The sweetness of all these conversations, and we've seen this all in the last year or so. We've seen all of these shapes and movements and pressing structures, and we've seen us go 5 at the back versus Man City, or 4-5-1 versus Man City. We've seen us go 5 with 10 men just against Brighton the other day to hold off a game. We literally went 5 at the back almost against Man United away and Spurs away once we had the lead and we were holding on towards the end. We've seen all of these shapes. The issue for me is, and this is the issue, and this is the issue for me going forward, is moving quickly to whatever shape we want to be. Whatever face we want to show, let's get to it quick, right? If we are looking for a solution for Martin Odegaard and one solution is not working, let's move to another one quick. The adaptation time cannot be as slow as it was against Brighton because it cost us a goal. Right, so for me, it's knowing our roles and knowing what face we're trying to show for that phase of the game. But having the ultimate confidence to go to these places with a couple of people out is key. Merino's he's just a wish at the moment. We haven't even seen him, right? So he's just a hope. Odegaard, we know. Rice, we know. Critical players for us. We haven't gone into a game without them before. Not one we've chosen, shall we say. So yeah, if this is a big thing, right? But I keep going back to it. If we're a big club, it's what we need to be. We need to be this way. And I think one good thing, Elliot, is our players know how we play now. And so there isn't like an issue. If anything, Sterling's and Merino's, they have to learn the different calls and the different language and different shapes. And this makes it easier. We haven't really discussed him yet, but if we were to play a Wanyeri, it would be easy for him because the structures are there. Where he's had plenty of time to see it every single day in training. I don't know how he's going to look in that environment. I've only seen him in pre-season, but if he did it, I'll be behind it. The only reason I've got to be consistent in my analysis, sorry, Elliot, last thing, you spend a long time building a player, not to kill a player away at Spurs his first game. So I've got to be consistent with that. But if the club have confidence in him to play in this game, I would too. Absolutely, I would, because I think he's a special talent.
Yeah, by the way, correcting the record, I had a brain fart. Partey was not subbed off against Villa. He played 90 minutes in every game, so correction there, sorry. The thing with Nwaneri, Paul, is an interesting one. I would say it like this. The only person who knows if he's ready is Mikel Arteta and Ethan Nwaneri. We don't. We have no idea. And if we think we have an idea, we're wrong, and I'll tell you why I believe that. Ethan Nwaneri has played no senior football. Unless you want to count 14 Premier League minutes, 15 Premier League minutes. Let's not do that. He's looked great for the England under-19s. Okay. He's looked great in preseason. Okay. He's looked great at, reserve level. And none of that is relevant to going to Tottenham Stadium and playing in the Derby in the Premier League. None of it. And it is not remotely a repudiation of his talent and his future to say that a 17-year-old with 14 minutes of senior football at any level under his belt is ready to come in and play in that environment with the pressure that's on that game. He may be ready. The only people that know are Mikel and Ethan. Now, I think Nwaneri will start or at least play significant minutes against Bolton in the League Cup. He may play some minutes against Atalanta just because needs must. But this game feels, let's put it this way. If Mikel puts him in, it's because he thinks he's ready. But I certainly don't think any of us know if he is,
Yeah. So I think this fits into the 2 parts to a game scenario. I strongly suspect Nwaneri is not ready to start the first 60 minutes. That'll be the period of the game where Spurs have a plan, believe it or not. It'll be physical. Like if Nwaneri comes on, he could be invisible for us for 60 minutes. Getting buffeted around, knocked around, getting the treatment. He comes on 65, 70 minutes when they're not ready for him. They don't have a plan for playing us, let alone him. Suddenly he's got space to run into. Suddenly it feels a lot more like his under-21s for England or whatever it was for... it feels like pre-season for him in terms of the spaces he's starting to see. And in terms of the collective mindset that we're going for it. If he comes on 65, 70 minutes, we're chasing a goal. We're going for the game. There's going to be space. He's going to get creative. If he comes on as a starter, that's a whole other tactical, hold your shape, blah, blah, blah. It's not exactly playing to his strengths. And I do think there's also this, you'll always hear, if they're good enough, they're old enough. But that's not actually true. He's in the squad, I suspect, because by the end of the season, he's going to be good enough and ready enough. And at the start of the season, he's probably not. And unlike other players, his trajectory will be potentially linear, where in the first half of the season, we're not seeing that much of him. By the second half of the season, he's had a chance to cut his teeth, get his feel of it. He may not be good enough in September for anything more than, some sub appearances and be, Jack Wilshere's second coming in the second half of the season, because the games were there. He's bedded in. He's got his confidence. He's got the feel of the Premier League. He's felt what it's like to get knocked around and not have his head spinning, seeing it as the opportunity that the next time he's going to get that guy because he knows how that guy's going to play him. That stuff all needs... He's never played this. He's never played with this physicality and intensity. So there is that category of player who's talented enough, but not yet good enough, and not yet old enough, but that changes quickly. But he could be plenty good enough for 15 critical minutes. 5 minutes can turn a game. He might come on 85 minutes, do something, one wonderful thing, and we're off to the races. So he'll have a role to play, I think, in certain games, maybe this one. And especially because we're going to get so thin in terms of players on the pitch, he has every chance to come on and make an important contribution, but probably not even the first sub coming on.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people point to things like, oh, look at Lamine Yamal. What if he's Lamine Yamal? And that would be amazing if he's at that level, and maybe he will be. But I look at Lamine Yamal and I look at his match log from last season, right? And you look at where he started and where he didn't. He was eased in more than people maybe remember or think. But guess what? Barcelona against Real Madrid, match week 11 at Barcelona, he did not start. He played 14 minutes in that game. Okay? Barcelona, home to Atletico Madrid. He did not start. He played 14 minutes in that game. Okay? So, you look at these situations, when they played Real Madrid in the Super Cup, he didn't start. He played 30 minutes. So he did, he was getting minutes. This is Lamine Yamal we're talking about too, by the way. Very special talent. There is a right way to bring these players through. And I think, we should bear that in mind. Clive, I do want to
also can I just say something slightly different off playing off the wings, to Clive's point earlier. in terms of speed and like 1v1 versus playing at the filling in for Martin Odegaard at right 8. There's a lot going on apart from how good and cool and quick are you with the ball and did you do something individually brilliant. It's actually more about the collective than the individual at that spot.
When you also don't have Declan Rice in there helping you out, through it. So you're sort of you're the new hope, the final hope. Clive, let's kind of cover before we get out of here some of the tactical battles that we see taking shape. I mean, Spurs are still the Spurs as we remember them last season. They press like mad. They have a lot of possession. If you can turn them around and get them running at their own goal, they look very, very vulnerable. Just look at the Leicester game and the chances Vardy had and how easily those were created. Look at the Newcastle game where Newcastle were under the cosh for most of the game, but created some big, big chances against them going the other way. It seems oversimplified, but it does feel a little bit like if you can keep your shape and repel them, in your defensive block, you're going to get chances to spring and do stuff in transition. I don't know that people want us to go into a derby being the team that isn't the protagonist, but that's probably what it's going to be. And that led to a 3-0 halftime lead last season. So what do you think about the tactical battle in this one?
Yeah, I think we'll play our normal stuff early on. I think we should go for them. I think it's really important to control the story against Spurs. I watched the Newcastle game in its entirety, and Newcastle went for them, and they got their goal. But what Spurs do, they have these purple patches of attacking play. I mean, they are real deep purple when they go. They look like, oh my gosh, we're coming from everywhere. But the price they pay when it comes to stability, if it doesn't go in the back of the net, is massive because they all think about going forward and they don't look over their shoulders at the green grass either side of them. They just don't. Mm-hmm. And they just hope that Romero and Van der Ven will cover for all their sins. And when they find out Romero standing right next to them in the penalty box, then they're in real trouble. You know what I mean? Because they just go for it. And that's their style. So if we can be disciplined in our defense, which we're not bad at, and our ability to play through them, I think their switch, the speed of switch from attacking play to defensive transition is so slow for them. That's our trick. If our transition speed is quick, when we win it, we go 1-2 go. They're nowhere, mate. They're absolutely nowhere. That's what I'd be focusing on. I'd be focusing on their indiscipline. I'd be focusing on their excitement that we are bedraggled and they will just come for us. I'll be focusing on that. I'll be saying, we're good, we're struggling, blah, blah, blah. And they're just going to walk straight into the Venus flytrap. Bang. And but yeah, if they get the crowd up and if they score goals and that, they start to sing their songs, it'd be a tough day, right? It'd be a tough day. So I do think it's important that we go for them to control the story and then we play at our pace with our Jorginho and Partey. We've done a few laps, moving the ball around nicely, metronomic style, until they run out of puff. That's what I'd like to see.
Let me ask you, Clive, because to me, the biggest thing I've seen this season that worries me about the way we've played is teams have been able to run through our midfield more than I'm used to and have some joy doing that. Now, there have been some really good performances. I think Morgan Rogers' performance was brilliant, and he just had an unbelievably good day. Some of that might be the fact that we're willing to trade off having a little more space to run through our midfield to try to be more in the attacking third and put more pressure on the opposition goal. I don't think we're going to do that against Spurs. But I do wonder, I think Paul's hit on something. I think if we do try to press them without our first choice midfield and our pressing angles aren't quite right and they find that pass to get around our press, suddenly that's where I think we could be in big, big trouble, with them running past our midfield. And I just don't think that the juice is worth the squeeze there. So I think our press, this might be a day not to turn it on, and not to try to, we've had this is the other thing, by the way, we should focus on. These players are just coming back from international duty today, mostly. It's not like they've had 2 weeks to prepare for life without Odegaard and without Rice and what our system's going to be. These players will just be training for it now. I know there were many that stayed behind at Colney, but to some extent, we didn't know about the Odegaard injury until a day ago. So they've only had a day to prep for this. I really think the press could be a mistake. If we see the dynamics developing that we saw against Villa, I think we play right into Spurs' hands. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, well, Villa played through us early in the game once. The rest of the time, they just ran through us in broken play. Just one player did it. And I saw a stat today that we've got the best defensive transition. We get the least on defensive transitions. But of course, we're Arsenal fans. We remember every single one. Right? So check it out. I saw it on Sky today, funny enough. They showed it. Defensive records and defensive transitions, we're like number one for not having as many.
Yeah, I don't think
Right?
that would be the case this season, for the record.
Well,
I would be shocked if that's
they
for this season.
They showed it up there, right? So I never would have known it otherwise. Yeah. Trust me, I wasn't looking anywhere. And so we remember them all though, because we're fans, right? So mate, I'm pressing them. What are we talking about here? We're not talking about Franz Beckenbauer back there. You know, we have to maintain our confidence. What are we going to our shell for? No chance.
So you would still keep the press on. You would
keep
play
the press
our
on
game
like we
our
do,
way,
intermittently. Keep the press on, because it's not about the press in the front. As long as we're together as a group with a unit, and the front to back distance is what it should be, then we can be aggressive, win the ball, and then control the ball, control the game, control the territory. What are we doing here? The one game that Spurs did have a team dropping deep against them was Everton, and they stuck 4 in their net. Well, I know Everton may not be the one, a great sort of measure, but they sat in and they got pumped, right? So let's play our game. Let's play our game. I know it's hard. We have to play our game. We don't press relentlessly. We don't. So we might decide to go long and play territory and play in their half. And to do that, we were starting to do that against Brighton in the second half. So you know what? We haven't got Martin to build up. Let's go straight to our wide men to post up, straight to Havertz to post up and play from there. And keep them pinned with our aggressive defenders who are all available. So
interesting.
I think it's very important. Maybe I'm in team talk mode earlier, but if we no matter how many teams are picked, there's always a problem with one player the day before the game, and then suddenly a different team. Yeah, I couldn't change my team talk because we lost 1 or 2 players. I've come here to win. So that's what we need to do.
I love the mentality. I love the hubris. I got to admit, Paul, I'm going for the coward's move. I'm not doing that. I'm not trying to keep the ball. I'm not trying to press. Look, we had 70% of the ball in the first half last season, and we were 3-0 up at halftime. I'll take that all over again. What I've seen this season is an Arsenal that cannot keep teams from running at their goal. And I cannot envision a world where without Odegaard and without Rice and without Merino, we still somehow find a way to press and control territory and not get run past and get run through when Jorginho's playing in there with Thomas Partey instead of Declan Rice trying to cover that ground. Like it feels, to Clive's point earlier, it feels like inviting ourselves into their Venus flytrap when I think our defensive shape is the best in the league. We can play a disgusting low block with the best of them. Look what we did at the Etihad last year. We can make a game eye-bleedingly boring to watch. But unlike Manchester City, Tottenham have no positional discipline in transition, no ability to defend. I'd go long. I'd let Kai win the long balls. I'd let Jesus win the long balls. I'd let them play in Martinelli and Saka. And I'd say, if you can beat our defensive low block, good for you. We're going to turn you around and make you run at your goal time and time and time again. So I'm going to go the coward's way. Clive's is certainly the team talk I think the team wants to hear and the people want to hear. But, when you've got whiskers my length, you go the coward's route. How do you feel about going the coward's route?
Well, I definitely don't want to do what you want to do, Elliot.
Well, that's a shame.
I think that'd be bad. No, I'm absolutely not saying sit in a low block. That'd be terrible.
Okay.
There is a question of degree. I bet if Clive and I talk about it for a little bit, we'll find out we're probably in the same ballpark here. I think we should press, but there's pressing there from the goalkeeper out to the centre back and over to the full back. And we've seen it. Like, you go chasing Man City across their back line, one side and back, they're going to make you look like idiots after about 10 minutes. We've seen it against Liverpool as well, when you super aggressively go. In fact, we saw it against Spurs last year at the Emirates, where we went chasing their back line, but we didn't have Gabriel Jesus. I think we had Eddie up the front, and I was like, either play Jesus and press like lunatics, but if you don't have your A team in that front 5 or 6 and you press the goalkeeper to the centre back to the full back and round the other side, the gaps will appear real quick, and Partey and Jorginho are not going to have the ability to fill in all those gaps right behind that first. So you don't do that press. You do the one that comes when they take another 10, 15 yards and you engage kind of somewhere near the edge of the box, and like you press tactically and you don't go crazy. You certainly don't head back to your half and wait for them to find you. That's not where we're at. It's more of a kind of a high mid block where you got your shape, you're in position, you don't leave the gaps between the lines, and you don't go jumping out of your spots to chase them across their back line or not, which we would certainly do in many games. For periods of it. And Clive's point is not something we do all the time. I just think I dial that part of it, the most aggressive part of our press, I dial that back. Keep your shape as much as possible, even while pressing. Don't do the crazy press. Play the odds where you force them to shoot it down the line, etc., etc.
Clive?
Yeah, so funny enough, I watched a little clip this morning of the 3-2 game last season. First goal, we pressed them into their left back corner. Right, Van der Ven had shoe boxes on his feet, booted it straight out to Party into Rice, shot, deflected corner, and we scored from the corner, 1-0. Mate, they're not that good. Let's put them under pressure. Do not let them get confident at home. Let's test their technique. Let's push them into that left-hand corner and let Van der Ven boot it. Right, and then we get the ball back. We haven't got to run past them. We have to wait and curve our runs and push them into that side of the pitch. And that's our strong side of the pitch. That's our right-hand side. So when we win it back, guess what? Bukayo Saka's standing there. Everyone's there on that side to progress and do the damage. That's what we do. And this is how we play. This is what we generally do. I don't think we should rip up the book. Elliot, I'm worried for every derby we play. Every single one. So I'm not pretending I'm sitting there with a cigar on. But just because we lose a couple of players, I'm just as worried as I normally would be. But I also watch Spurs play football. And trust me, they have vulnerabilities. And if we don't test them, we will not find them. And one of their strengths is not playing out consistently from the back.
No, you're right. Look, let's face it. You'd much rather be pressing their back line than them pressing yours. They're a good pressing team. That's what they want to do.
Yeah.
Don't let them play their game. Play your game. I will admit, and when I say low block, I don't mean a low block. I mean a mid block, obviously. I think, you know what I mean. Not 8 players in our defensive third, but just they're passing it around their back line at the halfway line. Yeah, I want them struggling to pick their way through, and we're looking for chances to spring quickly. I think we can also go long a bit if we need to. But you're right, Clive. Look, there's no question that pressing Spurs is a way to expose their vulnerability. If we go with Jorginho and Partey in central midfield, especially if the shape is the shape we've been using, where there's a little bit of distance between them, I admit I'm a little scared because of what I've seen so far this season when Rice had that distance, let alone Jorginho. And I know that we will win the ball back in some dangerous places at times, but if we don't, and that extra man drops in behind, Kai and Trossard or Kai and Jesus or whoever it is triggering the press, and they find that guy and he turns around and he's looking up and there's acres of space and only Partey defending it. That does scare me a bit.
Of course it does. It scares me too, because you've got that scenario in your mind, right? So you've got it in your mind.
Typical.
Yeah, they've got Bentancur, whatever he is. Morgan Rogers is better than him running through the midfield, right? So another thing, Elliot, this Jorginho bloke, despite the fact he's 106, he knows how to counter press. He's a brilliant sneaker.
I agree with that.
He can. He's.
Can I stop you for a second, Clive? Mm-hmm. I do want to stop you for a second because this is a fascinating thing. By the way, I love what Jorginho gave us. I praised what he gave us when he played. His last minutes for us were United last season, I believe. So, are we sure he's ready? Are we sure he's going to come in? Like, do you feel pretty comfortable?
And that's
with
why
that?
That's why that's the partner we don't know. If you're looking for balance, standing next to him, a left. Imagine getting the ball off a left touchline, right? And it's going into, say, a Jorginho from a left touchline into his feet. He can look after it. Obviously, he can. But I sometimes think, that Zinchenko bloke normally stands there anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just sometimes don't look too deep. He played 2 6s, 1 left, 1 right, and a 10. And that Zinchenko always get the ball off the left-hand touchline and moving it down that side and sliding it into, I say, a Trossard or Martinelli. Sometimes he's already there. He played 70-odd minutes in the second game. Partey played 2 90s in the national break. We've got so many options. My feeling is we're better than them, and we need to start behaving like it. We really do.
Yep.
As a club, we need to start behaving like it. And yes, we have trepidation because it's a derby. That's natural, right? That's natural. Last year's trepidation was different because even a draw would have killed us. It would have hurt us because of the nature of the game. This time, it won't be great, but it wouldn't kill us. The Spurs need to win to get their day in the sun, which means they've got to try harder. They've got to try harder, which gives us more space. The pressure's on both of us. Pressure's on them equally. It's September. The world doesn't end in September.
I think the advantage, too, of us coming in a little bit wounded, they're going to be stupider than usual. I think their tails are going to be up. I think they're going to think it's their day. They're going to have a go. They're really going to want to have a go at us. And that's kind of what you want them thinking. You know what I mean, Paul? So as we start to just finish up here, your prediction of what you see happening in this game, this game is going to have to be shared by some players. Let's face it, it's a little hard to analyze because if Calafiore's fit, he could play. If Jesus is fit, he could play. Both of those guys might not be fit. And then that changes things a little bit because I think what Jesus could do in my little 4-2-4 scenario is very different than what maybe Trossard can do. Maybe he will just keep it the exact same system, and it'll be Jorginho, Partey, and Kai in midfield, and it'll be Trossard, Martinelli, and Saka up front. I think Sterling could play a part in this game. Remember, he's had 2 weeks to be there with the manager too, preparing. So we'll see. There's a lot of ways you can go. What's your instinct for how the game will go, though? What's your sort of final predictions of what to expect?
Yeah, I just think we've got to lean into the challenges we've been given, the holes we've given to kind of free us up to do some things we wouldn't normally do. Like Kai, you're basically a 10. You're a right and you're a left 8, right? It's yours. Paint a picture. Paint a canvas.
Really explore the space.
Yeah. Do what you do, man. You got legs. Use them. Use whatever the pivot is. Lean into that strength. Dial it back just a little. I'm with Clive in what he says, but I still dial it back just a little in terms of the intensity in the first 60 minutes of the game so that you're pressing. You're just not, gang busting from minute one the same way you might if you had your strongest, best pressing team. And so you dial into that, which can, and it's not the coward's view. It's not we're away from home, we're intimidated. It's like we're just accepting the fact that our lineup's a little different and we're going to cut our cloth to measure and we're going to dial it back just a little bit, a little more shape, a little more clever pressing, not crazy pressing, a little more playing the percentages in how we press. It's a question of degree, and then lean into the fact that, to your point, you could list off 5 players who should not play 90 minutes. Great. Let's have kind of phase 1 of the game for 60 minutes and phase 2 of the game for 30 minutes, which fits to this kind of scenario against this particular kind of team, Spurs, who have their own 60-30 minute dynamic. And just think of it in terms of kind of 2 approaches, 2 lineups, who's ready to go on, who's got a role on 60-65 minutes. This is the easiest team talk in the world in terms of starters because everybody's going to know what Arteta's going to say in terms of motivation, sure, but also in terms of it doesn't matter if you start. There are 2 games within this game. Leo, you're not starting. You come, I have a plan for you in the latter stages of this. He can say that to 6 or 7 players, and this is one game where they know he means it, right? There are no starters in this game. There's the guys who are in for the first 2/3, the boring part potentially, and the last 1/3, the bit where we throw them all the curveballs and we light this thing up. You lean into your weaknesses to make them your strengths, your perceived weaknesses, the opportunity to do something different without people saying, oh, why are they doing something different? Like the post-match commentary, as long as it turns out pretty good, will not be, oh, Arsenal went to Tottenham and adjusted their game because they were intimidated. Like, everybody's going to say, well, they were missing the midfield. They did some different things. Was it good? Like, if it was bad, we'll get slaughtered. But if it was good, it'll be like, oh, I know why they did some different things. I know why they had a slightly different approach. I know why they were not quite as aggressive, a little bit more shapy, a little less go there and show them our stuff. We got all the excuses. We shouldn't need excuses, but we've got all the reasons why we did something a bit different are just made for us.
I think we will put out an 11 that is better than theirs, whoever it is. I think that matters. I do think that there's so many things that matter in football that are hard to quantify. Form, fitness, things you don't know about. If we're playing a Jorginho who hasn't played since last April, if we're playing a Jesus who hasn't really played much this season, if we're playing a Calafiori starting his first ever Premier League game, those kinds of things matter. Sterling's potential first game in an Arsenal shirt, all of these things can lead to unexpected performances and outcomes. But we're going to be doing something unexpected because we don't have a choice. But whoever we put out there, I still think from a talent standpoint, we're going to be in a very good position. And I would expect that whatever approach we choose to take, we have the talent to do it. So, Clive, your thoughts on how it'll turn out?
Yeah, well, I don't know. And by the time we talk tomorrow, I might be completely different. I'll be scared again. And then by Saturday and Sunday, I'll be feeling sick like we always do. I just think we've just got more ways of playing the game. And we've got some questions that we just can't answer. We don't know where people are with health at the moment. I think after a press conference, we'll have a greater idea. But no, Mikel, why is he going to give Spurs any idea? Our greatest strength could be our surprise factor. Literally could be at today, because I don't know what we're going to do. But the amount of conversation we've had just today tells me we got a lot of options that maybe we didn't have last year. We were just so settled on that group and the way we were playing. Now we have to find this stuff out. I know it's something I always say, Elliot, but it's really helpful because then we grow in confidence when we don't have these certain players available.
My prediction is 3-1 Arsenal. I just don't think Spurs defend properly, and I think we do. And ultimately, I think that's a bedrock of what we do that we will do again here. I think the heroes of this game will be Saka and Kai. I think they're our two best players currently, our two most consistent players currently, certainly in that part of the pitch, forgetting, the defenders. And I don't think they have a solution for that. I think Paul's point is spot on. I think Kai will really be all over the place and they'll struggle to track him. And I think Saka is a matchup nightmare for them that they won't be able to handle. So I think those two things are our edge. And I don't know that they have the attacking quality that we have, even though I know that's their stronger part of their game. What's an Odegaard? Is Brennan Johnson any good? They got these players that they're still trying to figure out. Timo Werner. I think it's a bit mix and match.
That's all they have, hot moments.
That's really it.
What we have discovered on this podcast, I feel that Kai Havertz could be our most tactically important player. Maybe full stop.
I agree.
Yeah, funny that how life changes, right?
Yeah, I think the very brush that he was tarred with, that he nobody knows his actual position, has become one of his strengths for us, which is that whichever zone of the pitch he operates in, he causes matchup problems and creates challenges for the opposition that they can't live with. So I look for a big day, as we always do on the derby, and I think it will be a good day for Arsenal and hopefully lift the mood, because I know right now people are a bit down and there's sort of a write it off feeling in some circles. You can't do that. Come on, it's early. Let's not capitulate. Injuries suck, but we have a lot of talent, and we have a team that knows how to play, and I think is going to show that on Sunday. We'll have a power rankings tomorrow that will also cover anything Mikel gives us in his press conference, but I wouldn't imagine he gives us much, so we'll stand by for that. Paul's on Twitter, Paul's my pants, Pause.
Woohoo! 2-0 to the Arsenal. That's my prediction.
What?
2-0.
2-0.
2-0.
I'll take it.
It'll feel 2-1, but it'll be 2-0.
I would take it. Clive's on Twitter, Clive PFC. Thanks, Clive.
2-1. Thank you very much.
2-1 I won't take because I won't survive it. We need the 3-1. So we need sort of the United end again, where Jesus sat down Dallo and finished beautifully at the end. We need one of those moments. But nice. This time in the derby. Okay. Hang in there, everybody. Keep your spirits up. Keep your confidence high, at least as long as you can. We'll see you for an instant reaction after the derby. We'll see you for the power rankings tomorrow, and we'll have the main pod on Monday. We love you, and we'll talk to you after Arsenal 10. Spurs nil.